So, Operation Overdrive is over with, and while I thought it was mostly okay, there were definitely a few things I thought easily could have been improved. So here's my top 10 missed opportunities of Operation Overdrive, the first top 10 video I've done, because 10 happened to be the number of things I thought of. Number 1, the Corona Aurora. The crown of the gods ultimately is pretty lame. It turns Furious into a monster. Sentinel Knight uses it to bring Mac back to life as a human, and that's it. I really think since the whole season has been spent getting it, there should have been more to it. How about whoever assembles the jewels gets a wish, similar to the Dragon Balls? Gathering all 7 of the Dragon Balls summons a wish-granting dragon. The bad guys of Overdrive, they'd all wish for power or invulnerability, but the Rangers would just wish Mac back to life. It's not super creative, but it's more than the vague powers it had in canon. 2. Camdor and Miratrix's backstory. The show itself gives next to nothing to work with. Miratrix was on some other planet at some point. Camdor sacrificed his freedom to rescue her, leaving him trapped in a necklace. My idea is to have them meeting at the Onyx Tavern and parallel Villa Max and Trakina's first meeting from Lost Galaxy. First, I need to come up with who they are. The show itself really doesn't give any personality, really, to these characters or a backstory that informs of who they are. Camdor is like an evil reflection of Ninjor. He's a sword-wielding ninja master who gets trapped in a thing. Maybe he could take some influence from Ninjor. Maybe he's a relation or former friend or former student of Ninjor. Wouldn't that make him more interesting? One of the things with Overdrive, since it's an anniversary season, I feel like references to past seasons, they could get away with a lot more. They could easily say Camdor was a former student or a former ally of Ninjor who turned against him at some point and now he's off being a bad guy. Miratrix is human. Camdor calls her human a few times, I'm pretty sure, and she seems to know Earth, but according to a single line from Dax, we know she's got some intergalactic origins, and later Camdor confirms this. Lothor and his nieces were spacefaring ninjas. How about connecting her to them? Maybe she's that relation that connects Lothor, Tamar, and Capri by marriage. That would work great for an anniversary season. Ninja elements from both Saban and Disney working together. We still need a reason for the jewel Camdor gets trapped in, though. How about they're working together on a heist and the jewel is their target? Miratrix gets it, but is about to take an energy blast from an enemy. Camdor jumps in, not so much to save Miratrix, but to save the jewel. The blast traps him in the jewel and now requires something from Earth to free him. Miratrix and Camdor head to Earth and happen to hear of the Corona Aurora. They decide to stay on Earth and steal it for themselves. 3. One of the Fearcats should have been Rex again. This is one of the most shocking missed opportunities to me. Mystic Force went out of its way to create this elaborate backstory for Genji, and then never followed up on it. There's a whole civilization of cat people currently being ruled over by a bad guy and possibly a witch, but we're just gonna do nothing with that. It's not like this was something from years ago and was really obscure. It was the backstory of a main character from the previous season. Overdrive shares almost entirely the same creative team as Mystic Force. Any of the Fearcats could have been named Rex again, and Genji wouldn't really even need to make an appearance. In the show itself, the Fearcats sure seem to have some weird gadgets. Maybe a witch could have supplied them. My ideal scenario, Genji returns, maybe the Mystic Force Rangers, but it could also just be him. He gives the Overdrive Rangers some information on Rex again and helps them to defeat him. His status is restored amongst his people, and he gives the Rangers an artifact that happens to be a jewel of the Corona Aurora, or contain a jewel, or as a magic artifact thingy, or some other thing. Definitely a huge missed opportunity there. Especially since Genji is a voice character. Like, you have somebody in a suit, you call up Oliver Driver and be like, hey, you want to, give a few lines as Genji or something? 4. Thrax. Thrax should have been a main villain from the start until the end. In 2 episodes, he had more motivation than most of the actual main villains of Overdrive. He wants the Corona Aurora to turn his parents evil again. Maybe he has the power to corrupt it, an inverse of Zordon's purifying wave. I was thinking of taking inspiration from Power Rangers in Space for Thrax. Thrax is somewhat in Dark Spectre's role. He's the leader of several villain factions. The various factions don't get along with each other, but they all answer to him. In the end, he confronts Mystic Mother and maybe Zed as a magic being. This would give far more weight to him as a character than just having him get blown up by a bunch of people he doesn't know. 5. The Sentinel Knight. Sentinel Knight should have had a connection to Mystic Force. Overdrive is mostly grounded in technology. Sentinel Knight stands out as one of the few fantastic elements. He's even got a big red M on his armor in both forms, come on! There are a lot of elements in Overdrive that feel like they could easily connect to Mystic Force, but in the show itself we only get 2. One of Fireheart's Scales and Xander, that's it. Xander doesn't do anything that anyone else from his team couldn't have done. The scale is a cute reference, but that's it. Sentinel Knight could serve as a bridge to introduce and explain anything from past seasons that pop up. Aside from that, he also just could have been used more. His first form isn't stable enough to stay for too long, yeah, but once he gets a physical body, he no longer has that limitation. I would have liked to see him hanging around the mansion, palling around with Spencer, or doing dishes or something. Imagine all the goofy things a bulky armored mystic entity could do. 6. Norg. Norg is a fun character. Not super deep, he's just a goofball who likes company. Unfortunately, that leads to him just kind of stagnating. He never grows, he doesn't learn anything. If you watch the first and last episodes back to back, he's pretty much exactly the same in both episodes. There's no twists or surprises with him. He has a unique position among Power Ranger characters. He's not a villain at all, but he's just kind of stuck with them. It's kind of like Kegler from Lost Galaxy. Kegler is friends with Villamax, and Villamax has attached himself to Chikina. Kegler doesn't appear hostile or antagonistic most of the time, and just goes along with what everyone's doing because he's Villamax's friend. Norg, likewise, just obeys Furious because he considers him a friend. I think it would be so much more meaningful and interesting for his character if, at some point, my idea for Norg is to have him actually be insanely powerful. He was revealed to have magic once, so yeah, he could quite possibly be one of the strongest characters in the whole show. Furious thinks of him as a convenient lackey and punching bag. He doesn't even realize that the only reason Norg never retaliates is due to his childish nature. At the end of the season, I think Norg should have unleashed full power on Furious, giving him karmic comeuppance for all of his mistreatment of him. 7. The Artifacts. I think the artifacts the Rangers spend so much time searching for should have had some connection to past seasons, or something relevant to Overdrive. We had Fireheart's Scale, and that was it. The one and only artifact with any kind of connection or relevance to anything. There was a thing related to Neptune, but I don't think it was intended specifically to reference the merman from Lightspeed Rescue. Of all artifacts, the only one that I remember anything about, let alone its name, is the Yanomami statue. Even then, the only reason I remember that was because of the research I did into the real-life Yanomami tribe. Maybe some of the artifacts could have come from the Animarium, one of the ninja academies, or belonged to one of the demons of Lightspeed Rescue. Even just a superficial name drop would add a lot. 8. Allies. Thor, Loki, Brownbeard should have participated in the final battle with Furious. I've always liked when characters in a story build up allies and friends who make a return later. Mystic Force and SPD did this, so there wasn't any reason it couldn't have been done here. Brownbeard could return as Nobeard, helping out the Rangers with ghostly powers. Thor would smash through some bad guys with his hammer, summoning lightning to blast them away. Loki would reluctantly come along to help, using tricks and shapeshifting to cause the bad guys to fight themselves. There's a lot of potentially fun choreography that could have been done with them. 9. Mystic Force Team-Up. Starting with Zeo, team-ups with past teams have happened almost every season. Only Turbo and Ninja Storm featured no team-ups. Overdrive did have once a Ranger at least, but no full team-up with the previous team. There are plenty of story opportunities open, the Fearcats and Rex again, Sentinel Knight, Thrax and Mystic Mother, or we could have had an Overdrive villain come up with a scheme that involves Briarwood. Another possibility, maybe an artifact or jewel winds up in Briarwood and the Rangers go there trying to locate it. 10. Comedic Tone. My favorite episodes of Overdrive were Out of Luck and Hammer Time. They stand out from the average episodes of Overdrive with their humor, and I wonder what the season would have been like if that tone was the norm. The Rangers being put in absurd situations, Spencer getting a bigger part than usual and hamming it up, silly guest characters, all that. Maybe instead of serious villains, we could have had a couple goofier villains. All the factions are the same, pretty much, in the show we have. Camdor, Miratrix, the Fearcats, Moltor, Furious. They're all just serious nobodies. Maybe at least a few of them could have been silly goofballs. The example I'll use is Ninja Storm. Ninja Storm had its share of serious villains, but at its heart was Lothor, Mara, and Capri. They were all goofy villains, and the season was all the better for it. If Lothor had been a more serious character, the season might have worked. As it is, I still think that was kind of what helped Ninja Storm become so popular, is the villains are pointing out how silly and absurd everything is. So there's my top 10. Operation Overdrive, missed opportunities. What do you think of these ideas? Are there any missed opportunities you thought of that I didn't? Do you disagree with mine? Do you think Overdrive was fine the way it was? Please tell me in the comments. I'd love to hear it. So that's it for this one. Hope you enjoyed it. See ya.
My name is Baron's Demise. Baron's Demise. Baron's Demise. Yeah, I'm a